Good afternoon, guys. Today is day three, and today we are going to talk about prospecting and acquiring listings. The trick in order to win sellers. Lead generation basics involves some prospecting methods, right? For example, cold calling. A lot of people call a database of property owners or green list owners in order to ask them would they like to sell their particular property, or they might have a buyer for their property and they want to approach them to see if they can structure a deal. Door knocking in target neighborhoods. Now, that's not very big in this part of the world, although it is kind of big in the western part of the world. But if there are certain communities in which you are actively working, you can request for your own clients who might be living in a certain villa to ask you to make some introductions to their neighbors, for example, who they might know will also be keen on selling their properties. Or you could attend some community events wherein you could meet some property owners and drop in your business cards and your flyers and your brochures, tell a bit about what you do, talk a bit about the transactions that you have concluded in that area, and try to see if you can onboard them as a client. And leveraging personal networks and also looking at online inquiries. These are some of the methods you should be really working on in order to focus on building your database of sellers and piling up the properties that you are able to offer to your clients. Consistency within this field is very, very important. You got to focus on daily prospecting routines in order to build a pipeline. Whatever you might be working on today, the calls you might be making today, the kind of people you're meeting today, the networks that you're building on and expanding into today might not reap you the benefit immediately. You might see the result after many weeks or maybe after many months as well. But the practice has to be consistent. You have to do it on a daily basis. Now, convincing sellers to list, right? Listing is super, super, super important because without that, the number of transactions that you have will significantly drop. Now, why do I say that? Think of it this way: you could potentially have the greatest and the most brilliant looking store in downtown Dubai, wherein people are walking and a lot of crowd is there, a lot of tourists are there, and the kind of clientele that you'd want to cater to is there. You could have, for example, a shoe shop, but a lot of clients are coming in while they're walking because you've paid great rent for that particular place. You've got a nice branding around you. But when people walk in, if you don't have anything within your store, if there's no merchandise kept on your shelf, what exactly are you going to sell to them? So that's the same thing that goes with listing. For example, your company could have access to various different property portals. You could have very good visibility on them across the board, or your website or your social media or whatever you're trying to do could attract a lot of people to come in. But if you don't have properties, if you don't have significant assets, if you don't have units that are differentiating you from everyone else in the market, then what exactly are you selling to your buyers? Sure, you can all pitch to them various different developers, but so can the next agent, the one after that as well, and the one after that as well. And they can be talking to the developer as well. So it's differentiating you in all of this. It's actually the inventory that you're holding. So it's very important that you convince your sellers that they give you the ability to list it so that way you can put it out in the open market. The people who are genuinely interested in it, the buyers can review it and come to you. Inbound marketing, basically. So, how do you approach owners and persuade them to list their property? We got to focus on identifying seller pain points. Firstly, sellers in the market need to sell property quickly and they want to obtain the best possible price out of it. Now, how can this happen? Is through listings. Why? Because when a seller wants to sell a property and sometimes they say, I'm interested in selling this property, but I don't want you to list it. So offer it in your private network. All of us in this particular field do have a private network. We do have certain clients, but they're limited, right? And also, the kind of clients that you work with on a regular basis might probably be investors who are looking for deals. They're bargain hunters. So, one of your seller might have a certain villa in a particular community, which is a very end user kind of a product, right? Is it necessary that the investor that you're dealing with, who's buying and selling with you, would be interested in that particular property? Not so much. That particular property that an individual is selling might be more suited towards the end user who's specifically looking for that property, right? Think of it as Google, for example. Why do you go to Google and why do you search for a certain product? Because you want it at that point of time. Meaning you're ready for it, you want it, and when you're able to find the right product, you're actually going to end up acquiring it. But when a lot of sellers tell us that, okay, you know what, take this property but offer it within your network, we don't want you to list it, our reply to them is very simple. Fair enough. We will offer it to our network, but keep in mind our network is consisting of investors who want to take advantage on particular deals. They're not going to buy your property because they're not looking for it, right? They're not the end user for it. It's not like they're in the market asking us, hey, can I get this particular villa in this particular community? Oh, can I get an apartment in this particular tower? The ones who are looking for it are probably going to go on property portals to search for it, right? Because that's the best place for them to find these kind of options. But the ones who are ready to buy anything and everything in the market are going to only buy it if there is a significant price reduction. So, for example, a market price of an asset is X, and if you're willing to offer it at X minus a certain price, then maybe they'd be interested because they'll buy it and they'll flip it off to another eventual buyer. So once most of our clients, whenever they acquire such properties, they come back to us and ask us to list it. And once we list it, we sell it off to the eventual buyer, right? So unless and until your seller is not willing to list it, they're not going to be able to get the best possible price out of it, right? They're going to have to compromise on the price at which they want to sell if they want to do it within the closed market. But if they're happy to give you a listing, meaning your product and your property now is accessible to the larger audience. And this is the audience that's actually trying to find properties, right? I mean, can you today be a store? Can you be a business? Can you be a shop and not be on Google, not be on social media, not be on search platforms? Because when people want something, that's the first place they go to. You can't say, right, I want to be offline and but I can sell everything that I have, but I want to do it all offline. Your reach is amplified when you're able to use these kind of portals, which is what we tell our sellers that let's amplify your reach. Privately, sure, our entire team can contact maybe 50 of our investors who might be interested in it, right? But by being out there, by being visible to the people who genuinely are looking for the product, we are amplifying our reach to 1,000 potential clients, right? That's the name of the game. So it's important that they understand this perspective and position your services as the solution. You got to articulate your value proposition that you're going to help them with extensive and exclusive marketing. You're going to put their property across various different portals. You're going to put products behind it. You're going to feature it. You're going to spend some marketing dollars behind it. You're going to make sure that it's visible right at the top, right? And you're going to obviously leverage your buyer network, and also you're going to leverage your agent network. Imagine if the property is offline and the seller is not giving you the listing. You don't even know if, for example, you offer it to a different agent outside and say, hey, would you like to bring a buyer because I have this property from the seller? Without a listing, you don't even know what if the agent can go directly to the seller and circumvent you, right? But once you have the listing, you have certain level of control over that particular property, so you'd leverage that network as well. And market expertise, which addresses the for sale by owner price tag. If you look at some of the properties that are listed on the market for sale by owner, you will find one very common trend. Majority of them have a price tag which is higher than the market price tag because they don't have the right guidance by an advisor such as yourself. They are not analyzing the market for what it actually is. They're not monitoring it on a regular basis. They have no comparables to look at. So they're just putting whatever price they deem fit or whatever price they wish they could achieve, not knowing that that particular price is not actually going to happen. So that's a very common trend. If you look at for sale by owner listings, the price point is not matching the market, which is why they're not getting a lot of transactions, which is why probably 10, 15, 20 agents in the market have that same property, but none of them have a listing of it. What does that mean? It's spread too widely into the market, and that those transactions hardly ever happen. So explain those to your sellers. Be confident enough. On a certain level, we tell our team members, and we do the same thing. If we get certain sellers who come and approach us, or we talk to them and say, look, you're interested in selling your property, we can help you with it, but we require listings. Most cases exclusive, but it's okay if you get semi-exclusive. And if they tell us, look, this is our property, I don't want you to list it, but this is our property, please offer it to your buyers, we say, thank you very much. We are not going to work on it whatsoever. We're going to put attention, focus, our marketing money behind the properties which we have listed, because we have a duty and a responsibility to those landlords. If those cannot get materialized and for any reason the buyer comes for that and doesn't end up acquiring those, then we will can offer them your properties, but it will never be on top of the offer list. Agents often net sellers more money even after commission by pricing strategically and negotiating effectively. If you've given a property, or if you as an advisor have acquired your property from the seller in order to market it, you're going to try your best in order to achieve the price that you have. You're going to be open to working with other agents because you know that a deal can be materialized. You're going to ensure that you're negotiating on behalf of the seller and you're trying to get them the best possible price, right? Because you know that you have the listing. If this buyer goes off today or doesn't materialize or the deal doesn't close, that's fine. You're listing it, you're still getting more inquiries, you have a larger pipeline that you can deal with. You're not limited to one or two clients only. Whereas if you're offering it as an offline property to one or two or five or 10 of your investors, you're obviously going to want the deal to go through. So chances are you're going to negotiate on your investors' behalf to try to squeeze whatever price you can. Listing presentation. Let me just get this off quickly. Now, listing presentation, very important, because in order to acquire the listing from the seller, you got to show to them what kind of value add are you doing. Some of the key elements of it are a professional comparative market analysis. And this is quite easy nowadays. You have various different platforms. You have DXP Interact, you have Bayou transactions, you have Property Finder transactions, you have Property Monitor. You can utilize their reports and create a market analysis. So, for example, you have a seller of a particular property who's interested in talking to you, and you organize a meeting with them for potentially getting the property to sell. Prepare a listing presentation for them. Show to them what are the last 5, 10, 15 transactions that have happened for units which fulfill, have the same requirements, same sizing, same layout, similar view. Show to them what are the current listings on the market, 5, 10, 15 listings on the market. Show to them what's the difference in terms of if there are any payment structure, rental, vacant. Prepare a report and present it to them, and give them the reasoning behind which you would suggest a certain price point to them. Don't just ask them what kind of price would you like to sell at. You're the advisor. That has to come from you. So add value to that particular transaction even before the business cycle with your client is started. Marketing plan. Show to them the kind of online portals that you're going to be on, the social media you're going to be targeting, and the open houses, if any, you're going to organize. So show to them that, look, on these property portals, Property Finder, Bayou, Dubizzle, I'm going to have your listing. I'm going to put it on page one. How exactly I'm going to put it on page one? I'm going to make it premium. I'm going to make it featured. I'm going to get it verified. I'm a true broker, or I'm a super agent. Hence, the visibility is going to be great. I'm going to put some marketing dollars behind it to ensure you're on first page. Because just like Google, even on property portals, your clients are eventually going to see whatever listings are on the first page and start to call them. Very rarely do they end up going to the second or the third page. By the time they reach the second page, they've already spoken to 5 or 10 different listing agents. And the smart ones, in case it didn't transact in their particular listing, they divert them onto a different property because they're holding maybe some properties offline as well, right? So you have to be amongst the top 3 or 5 listings in order to gain visibility and have transactions. Talk them through your social media plan. For example, I want to create a great video for your property. I'm going to put it up on my YouTube or Instagram page, which has X number of followers, and I'm going to spend X amount of money on a daily basis, run this campaign for the next 30 days to attract leads as well. That's great. It's showing to the client that you have genuinely put your skin in the game, right? You're putting your money towards it, you're investing on it. That gains a lot of confidence. Open houses. If you're dealing with any kind of nice villa in a nice community, for example, tell them that, look, on a certain day, I plan to organize an open house. If you give me this listing, I'll organize for coffee, tea, cookies. I'll invite, for example, 15, 20 of my clients. I'll invite 15, 20 of my agents who work in this particular field. And I know that they will be inviting a lot of people as well. So potentially we could have 50 people walk through the door. And I'm going to take them through. I'm going to have, brochures kept for them. I'm going to have flyers kept for them and all of those things. And show them evidence of past successes, right? For example, if you're trying to gain a listing in a certain community, show to them that if you've done any previous transactions within that particular community. Okay, I've sold these many villas within the last X amount of months. This was the asking price. These were the days on the market. This was a snapshot of the listing. These are the professional photos I got taken through my professional photographer, and this is the day, or this is the transaction that I eventually concluded. This is how the negotiation went. Show to them if you have any testimonials from those clients that you dealt with. If any seller of that particular community sold the property through you, maybe record a video with them and show it to your future clients as well. This will help you gain a lot of listings, and talk to them through case studies. So show to them actual case scenario. They will feel much more confident dealing with you, giving you the listing, if they know that within that particular area you have the market knowledge, you know exactly what you're doing, you have sold certain units, you have a clientele, you've got a pipeline. So their confidence in you will establish and be built even more. So show to them that you're not just some rookie who's come into the community, and you're asking them for the very first listing that they're ever going to have in that community. Chances are they're not going to want to be the trial and error case scenario for you. So show to them what you've done before, and emphasize honesty. Okay, in pricing, advising a realistic price builds trust. There are many cases I've seen wherein advisors are okay to onboard a certain seller and get their listing at any given price that they want to sell at, knowing very well transaction is never going to happen. Why? Because let me just get the listing. Once I don't see any activity in a couple of weeks, I'll go back to them and tell them, hey, by the way, this price is not working. So let's adjust. But that's not a great tactic and it hardly ever works. It wastes your and the client's time. It lays false expectation in their minds that, oh, you agreed to list at that price, meaning you must also be hopeful that you can probably sell at that price, which is why you agreed to it, which is why all of those marketing dollars, the energy, the photography, the effort, the timeline that you're willing to spend on it, you want to reap some benefit out of it, right? You wouldn't just let it go to waste. So you wouldn't want to do it at a price that you're not confident about. So it doesn't really help you. So look at the data and convince your seller to give it to you at the realistic price at which you can transact. If your seller is not agree and not willing to come to the terms on which you feel that the transaction can happen, it's okay. Walk away from that listing. There'll be many more to come, right? But be honest about the approach that you want to take and target the listings at a price point which you feel you can actually transact upon. This will build confidence in the seller and you will show to them a transaction rather than going back to them after 3 weeks and saying, I'm sorry, but I didn't get no leads. Why? Because I told you the price didn't work. Handling seller objections. A lot of times we get asked this question, right? So some of the common seller objections include, I want a higher price or I can sell it myself, right? So what exactly do we do in order to tackle these? For example, if a seller wants to overprice, show data of how overpricing that particular property just puts it on the market for a much longer time and eventually has a lower sale offer on it. And even buyers are able to see it, right? Today, for example, if you list a property on a portal and if it's not sold for 3 months, 4 months, it shows that the listing has been live for the last 3 months, has been live for the last 4 months. Even buyers recognize that, look, this property has been on the market. Maybe the seller is asking for a very high price, or maybe the seller is not serious about it, or maybe they're not willing to negotiate. So let's not work upon it and let's focus on other properties while it's sitting over there, not gaining any kind of leads, not gaining any kind of traction. Eventually, conversations are going to start between you and the client saying, what's happening? Why is it not moving? Price is the issue. Okay, let's drop it. So you'll slowly end up dropping it from a higher price to a lower price. Rather than going through that entire cycle, wasting time, energy, and effort towards it, better to price it accordingly in line with the market. There's no benefit to achieve out of just pricing it higher because the seller believes that I want a higher price. Secondly, I can sell it myself. If they really want to go solo, which is target for sale by owner, explain to them the complexities of the process and how you can add value. You screen the buyers, you handle paperwork, you maximize the exposure on their particular property. This is the line of business that you are into. You have resources for it. You have a company behind you which has access to portals. You have professional photographers behind you which will make great videos and images of the property. You have an admin team behind you which will write the right description on the particular property. You have a sales progression team behind you which will take care of the entire transaction A to Z. You have a mortgage team behind you which, when the buyers come, you'll assist them through mortgages. You have a team for golden visas behind you which potentially will tell the buyer, hey, I can also assist you through with the golden visa. And you're the expert in the field and you're going to ensure that the negotiation from the buyer is done in a fair and a clean manner, right? Clauses are placed such that the buyer cannot, back out of the deal at a later stage. Who's going to hold the check when the contract is being signed? If a deal is happening between the seller and the buyer, will the buyer be comfortable to just hand over the check to the seller? No. They want a trusted party in between. They want an entity in between that is able to expedite. Who's going to handle the entire procedures for the NOC, right? Who's going to take them through the entire transaction? All of those things are value add that you're providing and at no extra cost for them, right? Like whatever price they want to achieve, they're able to. If you'd like to add commission on the sale deal, you can even price it slightly higher and input the commission. Or you tell them that, look, I'm going to do the best possible service I can for you. When the final offer comes, we can discuss about the commission percentage and what would best work for you. But you are their partner in this kind of a transaction. They need you in order to conclude this. So tell them this. Doing it all by themselves, this is not their business, right? This is not all they do. They probably have other work. Imagine if they have to be present for 10 to 20, 12, 20 different viewings. A buyer could come and they might not have any other idea about other units in the particular project in the building. A buyer could come and say, oh, by the way, I have another 5 units in this building with the same view that you're offering me, with the same layout accessible to me at 10% lower than your price. What is the seller going to say now? Do they know? Can they verify that information? But when we work on that particular property, we know exactly what's happening in the tower. We might have more units in the tower. We'll know what kind of tactics are being used by the buyer just to purely negotiate and what's the actual case. So these are the elements where we are able to help our sellers. So very important that you convince them and show to them the value add that you bring. Okay. So these are some of the elements that we've covered today in terms of acquiring listings, convincing sellers to sell with you. If you guys have any other questions beyond this, especially on the topic we've discussed today, please drop them in the comments and I'd be happy to help them and I'd be happy to answer them for you. Thank you.